Okay, now we're official. So, um, firstly, welcome back. Good afternoon, good evening. Pick whatever one makes you comfortable. Um, Tonight, I just wanted to cover a few more things, specifically about paragraphing, and I also wanted to give you. Oh, Chris. Okay. I also wanted to give you an assignment that is going to lead into our first official multi-draft essay. All right. I know you all been waiting for that. Okay. Contain your excitement, please. All right. So that's going to be our discussion tonight. Just a bit about paragraphing. All right. And just some of the other, finer or well, one lesson about writing. All right, or the mechanics of writing, and then I will give you this assignment and let you be on your way for the night. I understand there's still some issues with acquiring the textbook. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yes. Is it available?
Yeah.
It is available in the bookstore, or not the bookstore. You know what I mean. The I guess the virtual bookstore.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I believe so. I'm still in quarantine, so I can't
Oh
access
yeah,
my
that's right.
PO
That's
box
right.
right now.
Okay.
So that's it. I should be able to get it by next week.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because next week is when we're really going to start going into that thing. So make sure you get it. And as I was saying last week, as long as you have it before we start writing our first I don't want to say major paper, but our first multi-draft paper, you're okay. And really there's just some material in there that I wish us to cover. But the lesson I learned this semester is to use my own book, or the book that I typically use in English 1510. All right. It's about $65 cheaper. I'm pretty sure I've told you it's cheaper multiple times. All right. Not rubbing it in or anything. All right. But there's just a few things that I wanted to cover before we get started. And let me share my screen. That would help. There we go. Actually switched computers from last week because I was getting some lag. All right. So again, there's just a few items on D2L that I want us to cover. Again, this is just textbook stuff, but I guess we'll hold that over till next week until hopefully we all have our text by then. But I just wanted to go in this grammar corner and error proofing resources module. This is going to become more relevant for us, as we get into writing our multi-draft essays. So I wanted to just quickly go over some of this stuff and really spend a few minutes just on something that I want us to learn as we move forward. This first one, this Grammar Blue Book of Punctuation, Book of Grammar and Punctuation. It's a website, but it's also um, it's searchable. So if you're struggling with something, first spell it right. Okay, trying to type too fast. All right, so if you're struggling with something, you can just type it in and bam, it takes you to the proper resources. All right. There's also another resource that I really like. All right, Grammarly is there, of course, and here's what I like. This is what I like. The site that I like, and I refer lots of people to this site. I use this material in my classes sometimes, but it's a site called Grammar Girl, Quick and Dirty Tips, and accept. Okay, accept the cookies. All right. This site again, it's searchable, and this one, it kind of gets right into the lesson. Like it said, quick and dirty tips. It really does provide like short lessons. Say it's run-on sentences. Say it's comma splice. Things that I typically don't like to spend much time on in class, but this one or this website it just gives you like a quick rundown. And for most of us, I'm pretty sure this material is is a review, of things that we learned a million years ago or whatever. But it's just a good, a good resource or a good tool, especially again if you're looking for a quick lesson. Something that I didn't put up here, that's also useful, and I can link it to you as well. But Khan Academy is great for, just like, the lessons are slightly longer, but they're very good and very in depth and very very accessible. All right, very down to earth. All right, so Grammarly, Blue Book of Grammar and Punctuation, Grammar Girl. All right, there's this document that I put. I don't want to look at this now, but you can go through it on your own. It's basically just, what we were discussing last week when we talked about the writing process, and this one is specifically geared toward editing. All right, but what I really wanted to talk about today, before we talk about just paragraphing material or paragraphing basics, is point of view in academic writing. All right. And I know that traditionally we are taught to avoid first person point of view in academic writing. And first person is I, me, we, us, our, my, I think I already said that before. But typically we avoid that in academic writing, unless, excuse me, unless your instructor has given you the go ahead to use it. Like our first summary response essays, first person point of view is fine. Even our first essay, because it's going to be a narrative, first person point of view, it will be acceptable for these assignments. But all the assignments after first person point of view will not be acceptable. All right, so and that varies from instructor to instructor. Some, will allow it, on their assignments, and some don't. But traditionally in academic writing, first person point of view is avoided unless you get the go ahead from your instructor. All right, but one point of view that we always 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 avoid in academic writing is second person point of view. You, your, you are. All right, second person point of view is always avoided in academic writing unless unless it's part of a quote. All right. If second person point of view is used within a quote, it's fine, quoted exactly how it is. But when it comes to our writing, we don't use second person point of view or in academic writing. And sometimes, it can be difficult because that's just, for most of us, it's our natural way of speaking. All right. We you say you a lot, when you write, from an academic standpoint. I mean, excuse me, when we speak, especially when we speak to our friends and our peers in a casual setting. But I think, as we put or as we shift our focus, to academic writing, especially in light of, this discussion question that was asked last week about what are some key differences between, academic writing and, the day-to-day writing. One of those would be, in just our casual writing, we aren't necessarily paying attention to, things like points of view. Okay. Usually text messages and social media updates, main goal is to get the point across, right? It's the same in academic writing. The main point is to get the point across, but all right, there's certain, rules, that have to be that we have to follow. And one thing about writing though, um, writing it's we always hear this analogy, things being compared to riding a bike. But writing is, kind of like that. And I say that because when you first start writing, or when you first start riding a bike, you got both hands on the handlebars. You're Wait, somebody's chatting me something. You got both hands on the handlebars, right? You're trying to do everything correctly. But soon, once you get that down, right, you're riding with one hand, maybe you're riding with no hands, you're doing tricks on your bike. The writing's the same way. Once you get a good grasp of the rules of writing, you can bend them just a little bit. Just like, when I was taught, as a student, um, I was always taught to never begin a sentence with and. All right. But that I see it all the time, in in the things that I read. So like in journalists, like in the field of journalism and other fields, basically the more you write or the more comfortable you get with these rules, the more you can bend them a little bit. All right. And for this class though, we're just gonna do things by the book. All right. Or at least until we get, comfortable enough with these rules. And one of the ones that we're going to follow or we're going to practice from here on out is to try to avoid second person point of view, unless it's within a quote. All right. Now, Professor Norwood, what do we do in place of second person point of view? Okay. There's words you can substitute. All right. You can use if you are allowed to use, first person point of view, you can insert one of those pronouns if it fits. But a lot of times when we're using second person point of view, you, your, and you are, oh, I forgot to give the explanation of why you don't use it. We don't use second person point of view in academic writing because it's a little too informal for what we're doing. And when I say informal, it just means that you assumes a relationship with your audience that you may not have. All right. You should always be respectful when talking to your parents. All right. And true, I guess, you should people should always be respectful when talking to their parents. But when we say you, it's kind of like we're pointing our fingers at our audience or we're addressing our audience directly. And that's something that we typically want to avoid in academic writing. All right. So instead of saying you should be careful or you should be respectful, you can say something like children, should be respectful. Sometimes when we say you, we are actually referring to a specific group. All right. And we're just using you as like a universal application. But when you say you, look, when you say you in academic writing, one thing you should ask yourself is, well, who am I referring to here? Okay. Or what do I mean when I say you? Am I referring to a specific body or am I referring to a specific group? All right. And if that's the case, then insert that group instead of just using you as this universal. All right. So practice avoiding second person point of view when you write. If we go down, there are some examples on this document. We can use people, person, anyone, someone, he, she, they, etc. All right. We can use one. One should always, buckle their seatbelt when driving a car. But sometimes if we use one, it can be kind of awkward sounding. So we may have to go into we may have to use a different choice. Passive voice, and really we can reconfigure our sentence, right, to remove you. And this is something that I've already coached a few students in this class on this in their first summary response essays. But we're typically or traditionally taught to avoid passive voice, when we write, but using the passive voice when you're trying to replace, second person point of view, it works, right? And it's just one of these reminders that the rules of the English language can get kind of arbitrary. All right. And again, that's why I say we can have a bit of freedom to break the rules, when it comes to our writing. All right. So okay. And this is what I was saying before, like label the person performing the action. All right. And here's just some further examples down here. So this handout is on D2L in the grammar corner. All right. Then there's another that I'll show you just really quickly. All right. Point of view in academic writing. This is just an explanation of points of view where it has first, second, third person. All right. And then more of an explanation about, avoiding second person point of view. So if you struggle with avoiding the second person point of view, right? Refer back to these handouts. Okay. Also, if you put your paper together and you say, oh man, Nora would ask us not to use the second person point of view because it's one of these rules. You can just go back into Word and you can go find. Okay, you has one up. All right. And then it finds, the U's in your paper. Then you can just go through and you can just swap them out, or you may have to do some editing and changing of the sentences. But that's just something that I want us all to bear in mind as we move forward. When we write in an academic context, second person point of view is avoided. And if it's in a quote, like I was saying before, of course, quote it exactly how it is in the source. But other than that, we avoid second person point of view. Okay. And first person unless your instructor says it's okay. All right. So that's again in the grammar corner of D2L, right? Okay. Now, my good people, okay, just change directions a little bit. Okay. Get out of the way, guys. There we go. Okay. Now, the material, I'm actually going to use our book, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about paragraphing basics. And if you don't have the book right now, it's fine. The same content that's in the book is in. I see you, Bear. All right, love you. All right. The same content, it can be found in this paragraphing module. All right. Here's a video on putting paragraphs together. University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Their writing center is very good. I use it all the time. I use their resources, and I go there and ask it questions too. All right. So you can follow along with us in the book or with me in the book, but just know that there's in this paragraphing resources module, there's plenty of supplemental material for what we're about to talk about. All right. And let me just do the arduous process of logging into my book. Hopefully it doesn't make me sign in again. Oh, cool. Okay, I'm already signed in. Very good. Okay. And then here's the book. And I'll give you all the page number in a sec here. I just want to go to just this material about paragraphing. Where are page numbers? Okay. If you have the book, right, and you're following along, let me just go back to the table of contents. We're in this revising section, and we're just going to look at remember the basics, or we're really looking at the addressing paragraphs issues, but we're going to go to remember the basics. All right. And again, if you don't have the book, it's cool. You can just look at it. All right. Now, okay. You can put this in our chat or you can just shout it out. But what have you learned about paragraphs in the past, right? How long is a paragraph?
I've learned 3 to 5 and then 5 to 7. So sentences.
3 to 5, 5 to 7. Okay. 3 to 5, 5 to 7.
In my school, it went up by grade. It went up a sentence by grade. So in like fifth grade, we were writing 5 sentences per paragraph. And now we're writing 11 sentences a paragraph.
Okay. So like achievement unlocked. Okay. Nice. All right.
I learned that it was however long it took to finish that section of the thought.
Oh,
It doesn't matter the sentences.
okay. Say that again.
However long it takes to finish that section, it doesn't really matter how many sentences.
Okay. So now we're talking about the development of ideas. Okay. And this is the mindset that I want us, to put ourselves in. When we think about paragraphs, try not to think in terms of there's a set amount of sentences that I must have. There we go. Okay. There's a set amount, or excuse me, don't fall into the trap of thinking that there's a set amount of sentences that you have to have in a paragraph. Now, can a paragraph be too long? Yes. And can a paragraph be too short? Absolutely. But I think instead of thinking in terms of like 5 to 7, 3 to 5, 10 to whatever, all right, start thinking in terms of like their characteristics, unity, right? Coherence and development. All right. I've been teaching English for, I'm not even going to say the amount of years, we'll just call it 2 decades. All right. Wow. I need to reevaluate my life. No. All right. No, I love what I do. I love what I do. I love what I do. But it's just I don't know. I lost my train of thought. Oh, unity core. I was gonna say I've been teaching English for all this time, and man, in every textbook I used, all right, even the terminology may different, but unity, coherence, and development, pretty consistent across the board. All right. And I can't remember if it was this class. I've been on like a grading frenzy like these past few days. But on some papers, I remember putting, practice strategies for paragraph unity, coherence, and, development, or practice developing your ideas. And really, that's what I mean. So we've kind of been going in a sequence where we began with critical thinking, and then we discussed the writing process, and now we're paragraphing. So we're kind of like, we're really laying our foundation for, our essays that we're going to do. Need to be able to think, right? Need to be able to understand the process. And now when we actually get into our essays, we need to have, paragraphs that effectively communicate our messages, all right, in a way that's clear, to our audience, all right? And the way we do that is by keeping in mind unity, coherence, and development, okay? Unity, coherence, and development, all right? We should burn that into our brains. So that sounds painful, but when you think of a paragraph, don't think of length, all right, or a predetermined amount of sentences. Think of, I need to express this point in an organized way, all right, and my paragraph has to show some readability. That's coherence. Coherence is just flow, all right. And then development means, well, development answers the question, what does my reader need to know? All right. What does my reader need to know? And sometimes as writers, we make the mistake of assuming that our readers know what we know. So there's a tendency for us, not to explain things because it's like, well, they'll get it. Okay. But an acronym I use on papers a lot is DARK. It just means don't assume reader knows. Don't assume your reader knows something just because you know it. All right. So yeah, okay, unity, coherence, and development. All right, and our text, tells us, remember the basics. Paragraphs are organized around a controlling idea, okay? Here's $1 million question, okay? Where is this controlling idea in our paragraphs? And I'm specifically talking about body paragraphs because introductions and conclusions have their own set of rules, okay? But where is our main idea in a body paragraph? Okay, what's this particular sentence that announces our topic?
I want to say the first two, and then you kind of like I don't know, summarize it at the end.
Ah, okay.
And
The
like lead into the
sandwich.
next paragraph.
Okay, we'll take it. All right. Topic sentence, usually your first, especially with us, since we're at least starting off, we're doing things by the book, but topic sentence, right? And then you need your supporting details, and that makes a good paragraph, or something that we will get heavier into, or I would just post the this handout in our paragraphing resources module. But PIE paragraphs. PIE is just PIE. Point, which is your topic sentence. Information, which is the rationale, the rationale for your topic sentence, or you're explaining your topic sentence. That's when you bring in your evidence, right? That's when you use your reasoning. All right, so that's our information. And then explanation is really just tying it up. Okay, tying it up, or because never begin or end a body paragraph with a quote. So, always follow up your information with your own words. Okay, point, information, explanation. Again, that's a great way for just keeping your body paragraphs organized. But if you want to break it down even further than that, body paragraphs need two things: topic, sentence, relevant supporting details. All right, and that's what our textbook tells us, and every other textbook I've taught from says the same thing. Okay, controlling idea, topic, sentence tells everything else in this paragraph what to do. Also, your topic sentence tells you, the writer, what to do. All right, so topic sentence tells you, I can't go outside of these parameters. Okay, and this is an example that I've been using all day, so I'm just going to stick with it because I'm like mental fatigue right now. I don't feel like thinking of new examples. But how many folks were taught personal finance in high school? You had a class about economics, about finance, about whatever. Basically,
Yeah.
how to manage your money. How many folks got that at high school?
I did. I took it freshman year.
Nice. Okay.
Two.
People. How many went to schools where it was mandated, like you had to take that class?
Yep. Yeah, it was mandated at my school, but I
Okay.
just took it freshman year.
Few folks, because I'm of the thought process that it should be mandated across the board, like for every high school. Like you shouldn't be able to get out of high school with some kind of financial education. All right. So if I'm presenting that as an argument, right, in an essay, like that's my thesis statement. High school students should have to take a class in personal finance. That's my thesis statement. Okay. Now, the rest of my paper is going to be justifying that. Okay. Why? Well, people need to learn about credit early, right? That's one of my reasons. So that would be one of my body paragraphs, right? So if I begin, if I would say this differently if I was writing it, but students need to learn about credit early. Okay. That's a draft of my topic sentence. If that's my topic sentence, that's all I'm going to talk about in that paragraph. I have other reasons to justify why students should take a class in personal finance. But all right, but trying to do two things at once. But those ideas will go into other paragraphs. All right. And to answer the question in the chat, Jacqueline, it is my understanding that the code comes with the book. All right. Meaning once you buy it, it comes shrink wrapped and the code is already in the book. Right. So if there was a little card or something, hopefully you didn't toss it. But that was my understanding, that your registration code for the book, it comes bundled with the book.
Yeah, it was kind of weird when I had to activate mine because I had
Mhm.
to. Wait, the code was working. It worked after about 40 minutes of trial and error.
Yeah.
But
Engage, man.
yeah, so what you do, Jacqueline, is you just go to the website after you make your account, and then if you get to the class page, then you go to the register at the upper right, and then that's where you put the code, and then it'll let you get in the class.
I am. Okay.
I have a follow-up question to that. So I
Yes.
got the book. I got the ebook off
Yes.
Cengage, and I have no clue if that means I have access to MindTap or
Yeah.
not.
If you have the ebook, you're all set with MindTap.
Okay.
And sorry for not getting back to you.
Oh no, you're totally okay. Yeah, busy people. Busy
Oh
too.
man. Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would. Yeah. Okay. Just as students, because I'm kind of used to this pace, but just as students, especially, and this is kind of off topic, but since we're talking about it, as students, if you're starting to feel overwhelmed, especially as first timers, very important that you take care of yourselves. Okay. Give yourself just some space to breathe, even if it's for just 5 minutes, because college can be overwhelming, especially for first-time students. So we're okay. All right. We're okay. All right, now unity. Okay. Paragraph unity. Okay. And again, back to this example about, credit, right? Students should learn about credit early because it could prevent problems later in life. Okay. That's kind of a long topic sentence, but we'll roll with it. So if that's my topic sentence, that's the only thing that's going to be in that paragraph. Okay. Credit. Again, my other ideas about why students should have an education about personal finance early, those would be in other paragraphs. But just remember, when you're writing an essay in an academic setting, one idea per body paragraph, right? So this is where, doing an outline will help you out a great deal, because you can already establish those ideas, or you can already establish those separate points. And so when it's time to put your paper together, you're saying, okay, I know I have a body paragraph about credit. I have a body paragraph about, budgeting, long-term budgeting, and, whatever other points that you want to make, about whatever, subject you're talking about. So think about, ways to keep yourself organized. And a lot of times when I'm evaluating student papers, topic sentences there, they're moving in the right direction. And then they have, 1 to 2 sentences that don't belong. All right, which is fine. All right, especially in a rough draft. All right, and sometimes students, and you may have already gotten this, I can't remember for this class, but you may get papers returned from you with strikeouts, meaning like there's a line in your paper where it's crossed out, and that doesn't, and usually there's a comment, if something's taken out of your paper, but typically, or usually, it just means that this was a good idea, but it didn't belong in this paragraph, right? So it doesn't mean like, completely wipe it off the face of the earth. It just means that, and a lot of times this will be my commentary, like, consider putting this sentence, a couple of paragraphs down, because it makes more sense right here. So when you're going back over your paper, or in the beginning, when you're creating these paragraphs, always stick to this idea that you have in your topic sentence. Okay. And it's really, in math, when they tell you like check your work, the way we do that in English is looking back at your topic sentence. That's how you check a paragraph, to see if everything is relevant in your paragraph. Or sometimes it can be difficult to discern, what does or what does not belong. Why? Because doesn't most of what we write make sense to us, right? It came from us. We get it. All right. But having someone else read it, with a fresh set of eyes, or someone that's not in your head, they would say, hey, this sentence, it really doesn't make sense right here. All right. Either you can alter it or you can get rid of it. All right. So that's what we mean by paragraph unity. Okay. Start with the topic sentence and then let all of your ideas flow from there. Okay. Topic sentence is the main idea. And our textbook gives you ideas, or different ideas for placing your topic sentence. All right. Oh man, Apocalypse Now, great movie, right? Heart of Darkness, also a great book.
Great.
One more time.
It's a great movie, Apocalypse
Yes, absolutely. And it's based on that book, Heart of Darkness, all right, by Joseph Conrad.
Never knew that.
Very old book, but still relevant, right? It's basically about what happens if you go somewhere like the societal rules disappear. Are you going to be Mr. Kurtz? All right, but that's neither here nor there. All right.
The horror.
Yeah. English teachers, man. We just, I don't know. All right. But this one, middle placement of topic sentence, sometimes it's at the end, sometimes it's implied. But I would just say this. For our first couple go rounds, let's just try it with our topic sentence as the first sentence of the paragraph. Excuse me. When we get a bit more comfortable, Maybe on our next essay. Actually, yeah, our next essay was the causal analysis. Yeah, we have a bit more freedom with that one. We also have freedom on our upcoming essay. All right. Yes, right. Check out. This is again off topic, but I like war movies, especially movies about the Vietnam War. So that was pretty good. All right. Now, okay, how do we support these ideas? Got our topic sentence. How do we flesh it out? Okay, how do we flesh it out? All right, that's when our, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but again, just make sure everything in that body paragraph, all of your supporting details have a clear connection to that topic sentence, to your first sentence, because again, that's what's going to keep you organized. And our textbook, it gives us a couple of examples here, one original and one revised. All right, now I'll quickly go through these because there's some other stuff I want to hit on too. Okay, according to some anglers, okay, fishers, all right. According to some anglers who do use smooth hooks, their lures perform better than barbed wire lures as long as they maintain a constant tension on the line. Smooth hooks can bite deeper than barbed hooks, actually providing a stronger hold on the fish. Some people have argued that replacing all the barbed hooks in their tackle would be a costly operation. Okay. That is not unified. All right. One, early we're talking about the performance of these types of hooks, and then we conclude with just a quick statement about cost. Right. So, and again, just, a few minutes ago, right, I kind of went off on a little tangent about Apocalypse Now. Think about how that applies to writing. When we have a body paragraph, then we have a sentence that doesn't belong. That's a distraction for your reader, right? So you could be conveying like this great information to them. All right. It's well researched. Okay. Good points, things that you want your reader to know. All right. Ideas you want them to consider. But if you have sentences in that paragraph that can be distracting, then you run the risk of losing your reader. So again, it's just important for us, to always, especially during the revision process, go back, and look at your paragraphs and see how the body matches up, or see how the supporting details match up to the topic sentence, and then look at each sentence, right? Is this connected to my topic sentence? All right. And that's what we mean by paragraph unity. Just sticking with one idea. Okay. Just sticking with one idea. I'm not going to read the revised version, but just from looking at it, it does not have these sentences that are distracting. And then, it sticks to this main idea in the topic sentence, where it's all about the performance, of these hooks. All right. So that's that. So unity, this means together. Okay. It's unity together. It's like all five fingers coming together to make a fist. Or when they open to make an open palm. Okay. They need to work together to achieve these things. Okay. Now, this is where, just in my experience as, a teacher of writing, this is where students, will struggle just a tiny bit. All right. Unity, it just comes from, just practice and going back and verifying your ideas. But coherence, that is something that definitely comes from practice. Okay. And writing is just like anything. The more you do it, the better off you'll become, or the better you're going to become at it. Okay. Even if it's just, writing in a journal. Okay. And you're trying to adhere to certain guidelines. All right. So coherence, it just means like flow, the connection between your ideas, or does one sentence flow into the next? And this is what I also mean by readability, right? So, and I do have, especially like first drafts and essays, and the discussion is, well, man, this is some great content. Okay, these are all, you know, solid ideas. They're supported well. But now let's talk about the form of it. Okay, let's talk about how to smooth this out, you know, just a little bit. Okay, smooth it out. Okay. See how my voice got smooth right there? Coherence. All right. So repetition, parallelism, using transitions, repeating key ideas. These are all great techniques to, you know, achieve coherence. And even, you know, in some papers early in the semester, this early in the semester, I may have even put, you know, practice strategies for coherence. But repetition or parallelism just means using the same style or the same, you know, structure when you write. Like if you list things in a paragraph, like if we look at this example, or if you list things in a sentence, I'm sorry, the floor is littered with discarded soda cans, newspapers that were crumpled, and wrinkled clothes. And if we see, you know, this, all of these, with the exception of this one, they use the suffix, you know, ed. All right. But here, okay, this is where we kind of go south a little bit. All right. So we just want to use, you know, the same structure, you know, throughout our sentence, right? The floor was littered with discarded soda cans, crumpled newspaper, and wrinkled clothes. Okay. Kind of sounds like my room a little bit. Okay. Minus the soda cans. Wouldn't even say soda here, man. Okay. We need to change this book. All right. Reading the book was enjoyable. To write the critique was difficult. Okay. So here we want reading and writing. All right. So it's, you know, parallelism. That's, you know, that's what we call it. All right. Some texts may call it repetition. But here, right, this is one of our main strategies for using transitions. There we go. All right. And transitions, some of my students in the past have called them word glue or idea glue because it just keeps our ideas together. And transitions help us go from this point to that point, or from this sentence to the next sentence. And they connect our ideas from sentence to sentence. Okay. Transitions will really go a long way in helping your paragraphs flow more smoothly. All right. And I just say, you know, our textbook gives us this list of transitions. Didn't want to do that. Our textbook gives us this list of transitions, right? So try to take advantage of this list. Sometimes, you know, we'll get, all right, a transition stuck in our head that we like. And I always applaud students when they use transitions, but, you know, try to diversify your toolbox. All right. Try to diversify your toolbox, right? The paradox of Scotland is that violence had long been the norm in this now peaceful land. In fact, so when you want to show emphasis, right? In fact, the country was born, bred, and came of age in war. Okay, passage of time to show addition, right? To show similarity between two or more things, right? Make sure the transition you use is really capturing the relationship between ideas that you want to show. All right. There's a list of transitions here, and there's also one in our paragraphing resources module. All right. So when I say on a paper, or when I write on a paper, you know, practice strategies for paragraph coherence, it means transitions, right? It means repeating key ideas, right? It means, you know, parallelism. Okay. So, you know, think about these things. And really what you're asking yourself is, how can I express my ideas as clearly as possible? How can I strengthen the connection between my ideas? Okay. So keep that in mind, right? Transitions, parallelism, Okay, repetition of key ideas. These are great strategies to make your paragraphs flow, right, smoother. Okay, and again, when you're doing a rough draft, try to incorporate these ideas or these strategies as best you can. But in the revision process, that's when you're checking for these things specifically. All right. And then, as I was saying before, our book calls it completeness, but it's development. Okay. So unity, together, unified around one idea. Coherence, it flows smoothly. Strong connection between your ideas. You're using transitions and these other strategies. And then development. Okay. And if you are an underwriter, meaning your paragraphs tend to be short, you have a 4-page paper to do, but your first draft is only 2 pages. That means, or usually that means that that student needs to work on development. Okay, developing your ideas, or explain what you mean. Okay, and sometimes in a comment on an essay, that'll be the comment. What did you mean here? All right, and that's just me probing probing for more information, but two, just pushing you to develop this paragraph further. And sometimes that process again involves getting out of your own head. Okay, and telling yourself, hey, just because I understand this doesn't mean that my reader will. So I will need to add more detail. All right. I will need to add more detail here. So development, again, answers that question. What does my reader need to know? What does my reader need to know to understand this point that I'm making? And for us, our first essay is going to be a narrative, right? So for us, our main strategies for development will be descriptive language and narration, of course. Okay. Descriptive language, just as it says here, is just using language that evokes the senses. Meaning, if you say like, man, it's hot, okay, or you're writing in your paper, it was a hot day, okay, that's really not going to resonate with your reader. They aren't going to be able to picture that because depending on where they are, a hot day could mean different things. Is it dry heat? Is it humidity? Right? In Michigan, right? When it gets like 65, 70, we may consider that hot. But in Florida, 60 or 65, they may have on long sleeves. All right. So when you're saying it's hot, what do you mean? So if you say like it was a sticky day outside, now your reader kind of feels that. Or you can say it was one of those days where, I was sweating as soon as I came outside. Or one of those days where, I was sweating or I took a shower and started sweating immediately after my shower. You can't dry off, right? So why even get dressed? Just put the same clothes. No, don't do that.
Huh? What?
Yeah, don't take a shower and put the same stuff.
I was thinking that's kind of how golf commentators are. Like they always like really lay out like, oh, it's a beautiful day, 70 degrees, the wind is out of the northwest. And, they really go into detail explaining, the conditions.
Absolutely. And then
Tournament.
with that level of description, you can close your eyes and see it. Right? So when you all are writing your papers, especially since you all are about to write a narrative, your job is to try to put your reader in your shoes as best you can, right? So one of the examples that comes to mind from this essay that I read, it was last semester or semester before, I can't remember, but this student was just describing just the memory of being at a carnival or having their parents take them to a carnival when they were young, right? And they did a great job of describing the smells that one would encounter at, okay, a great job of describing the smells that one would encounter at, the carnival, right? For me, when I think of the carnival, I'm thinking of things like elephant ears and food, basically, right? Because that's where my mind goes. But she just described just a good combination of, food, there's other smells that you can imagine at a carnival. So this one was really good. Another one I can remember, the student was just describing this horrible day they were having. But one of the things that stood out to me was just getting out of the car, stepping into a cold puddle, and having to go the rest of the day with wet socks. Okay.
Ugh.
Yes. Yes. And just like you made that sound, the sound, or that's gross, that's what we want that's how we want our readers to react to things, right? Not necessarily like but whatever emotion or whatever we're trying to convey, that's what we want to impart to our readers. So they can't see us, so we have to use our words. All right. And the caveat to that is sometimes a tree is just a tree, right? So sometimes you do want to use your descriptive powers, but sometimes a tree is just a tree. All right. And the way you make that distinction is what's relevant to what to the point you're making, right? Is this tree, relevant, right? Is this a tree you used to go sit under when you were a kid, or you still have scars on your leg from when you were climbing this tree as a kid and you have great memories? Or is this just a tree that was in your yard that you just had to make reference to get to another point in your narrative, right? So think about when you're deciding what to describe vividly versus what to describe sparsely. Think about what's relevant to the point you're making or the overall point you're making in your narrative. All right. So I will go over some of these other patterns of development when the time comes. But for us, we just need, because I don't want anybody to consult any secondary sources for this upcoming project that's coming down the line. But for this one, we're just going to pull from within, right? Or pull or recall for this essay. That's going to be our research for this essay, recall. Maybe talking to other people that are involved in, this narrative that we're going to deliver. But for the most part, it's going to be self-contained. All right. So concrete details, right? Narration in like chronological sequence, meaning like discuss what happened first, the next, and so on. But descriptive language and then narration. That's what we need for this. Okay. And like I said, we'll come back over some of these other patterns of development when we have to write essays that are not narratives. Okay. So again, my good people, unity, right? Just means paragraphs focused on one idea. Coherence just means it flows smoothly. Okay, you're using transition and these other strategies. Then development, right? There is enough detail for your reader to understand what you're talking about. And in a narrative, specifically when we're discussing an experience, there's enough detail for your reader to picture what you're talking about. Okay. And I think all of us, okay, iPhone, I think all of us have experiences that are worth sharing, with others. This class, we don't share our work with one another, but in face-to-face settings, I do a lot of peer review. Okay. Figure out how to work that out for next semester. Okay. Now I'm just going to go back into D2L real quick. While we're transitioning, if you haven't heard, next semester will be remote as well. All right. Unless you have classes that involve like labs. But yeah, we'll be back remote next semester. Okay. I went to my home campus this morning, the Southfield campus, and it was pretty much a ghost town. Added me something in chat. The chat disappeared. Okay.
When it gets too quiet, I keep thinking that my Wi-Fi disconnects, and I'm like, oh my
Now,
god.
yeah, I'm actually hi, it's Teresa. Okay. Hey, Teresa. Okay. Yeah, I had to switch to a different computer, man. Like I really love the Microsoft Surface, but the one I have doesn't when I try to do too many things at once, it starts like coughing and wheezing and stuff. So it's overworking. Okay. Now, let's just wrap up a little bit. let's wrap up. All right, I'm going back into the paragraphing resources module. All right, now, okay, our assignment for next week. And like I was saying, this is the start of our first multi-draft essay. And like I was saying, you know, in the beginning of the semester, we're always going to begin with some kind of pre-writing activity, and this is it. For this one, our pre-writing activity is a reflection. All right. And again, to access it, I'm in teacher mode, so my access may be a little different. Actually, let me so it'll be accurate. Oh man. Okay. Quentin's last name is Fly. Last name. Okay. Now, back to our paragraphing module. All right. Now, let's go into our assignment. No discussion question this week. I just want you to be focused on this assignment. All right. So I'm just going to click it. All right. Here it is. I want mine in Word. There we go. All right. Now, our beliefs are an essential part of our identity. However, in our lives of constant movement and activity, we rarely get a spare moment to reflect on the ideals we hold sacred. Yeah. Sometimes we don't give ourselves that moment to reflect on things. I think that's necessary to us as human beings. Okay. But we get so much pressure to go, like all the time. Use this first reflection assignment to explore the beliefs of others and to articulate your own. Okay. So I'll get into the directions in a second. Additionally, the music we listen to often shapes us. Many of us have seminal songs in our lives that have impacted us in a meaningful way, i.e. coming of age music. Music can guide us and help us make sense of our world. Certainly helps me make sense of the world. Reflect on a song that has facilitated your personal growth or one that is directly related to your belief. Okay, so here's the nuts and bolts of this assignment. It's in 3 parts, but do this on one document. You can label each section if you want. That's perfectly fine. But this is our pre-writing, for our first essay. The first part of this assignment is we're going to go here. Okay, thisibelieve.org. Okay, and if you're looking at it on D2L, you should just be able to. Actually, I'm going to revise this and make this a hyperlink. All right, but we're just going here. Thisibelieve.org. Paste and go. Like I did the same thing this morning when I was using my other computer. It took about 5 minutes for that page to load. Okay, so you're going here, thisibelieve.org, right? And you're going to go into Explore, and you can do this many ways, but I think browse by theme gives you the most options. So you just want browse by theme, and then the rest is up to you. What speaks to you, right?
All right.
Yeah. What speaks to you? Okay. Find an essay. All of these can be read, but most of them can be listened to. Okay. So whatever your interest is, and I think there's something, there's something here for most folks. I'm gonna go out and say everybody. And these numbers next to us, next to your these options, that's how many essays are in each category. And these essays are written by, there's celebrities, there's elected officials, but most of them are just written by everyday folks. And then there's essays written by high school students all the way to, senior citizens, right? And you may have to look at a few of these, to find one that speaks to you. But once you find your essay, okay, that you settle on, I was like, man, I really like this. I can relate to it for whatever reason. Okay. Once you get that established, all right, one paragraph summarizing the essay you chose. One paragraph. Okay. One paragraph summarizing the essay you chose. And remember, just like our previous assignments, always include the title and the author in your summary. All right. And then once you include that, or once you finish that paragraph, start a new paragraph. Now you're going to discuss why that one. Okay. What about this one stood out to you? There's one that I like. And it's Kike Aviles. And I think I'm just paraphrasing it, but I think it's called I Will Take My Voice Back. And it's written by, a poet, an artist, performer. He's a respected, or he's a known, performer, but Kike also writes about his serious drug addiction. And that one stood out to me because all about dichotomy. Meaning, on the one hand, he's this poet, people like him, people are interested in his work, but there's a side of him that not people know, right? And he talks about drug addiction, alcohol addiction, and he says, he knows the path he's going down will eventually kill him. But he also knows that if he focuses 100% on his writing, that could possibly save his life. So for me, I like things like that where there's a little bit of danger involved. But there's lighthearted essays, there's funny essays, right? There's essays about I guess family oriented things if you want to go there. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of essays about a lot of topics. So try to find one that speaks to you, and then after you summarize it, another paragraph about why that one spoke to you. Okay. Now you're 2 paragraphs in, our third paragraph. Now that you have read about someone else's belief, think about your own. Okay. This part specifically, this is what's going to turn into our first multi-draft essay. So really, really think about this part. Okay. Now that you have read about someone else's belief, think about your own. Spend some time thinking about a principle that guides your life. Your belief is completely up to you. I do not judge people for their beliefs. Why? Because it's kind of tied into my belief in compassion. All right. So that would be my belief. It kind of guides, the things that I do in my life. Compassionate and just respect for life, in all its forms. All right. So your belief is completely up to you, but here's the catch. Just make sure that it's your own. Okay. Especially for those of us who are still kind of figuring it out. All right. I think most folks get to a certain age where you're kind of differentiating your beliefs from beliefs that you are raised with, right? And as we grow and as we mature, some of the stuff we were raised with, we're going to hang on to, and some of the stuff we're going to let go of, which can be a powerful thing, just letting go. All right. Just letting go. Okay. So whatever belief you come up with, just make sure it's your own. Okay. Make sure it's your own. Writing, in its purest form, sometimes it's just a search for who we are, or a reaffirmation, or an affirmation of who we are. Okay. After you have a clear idea of your belief, write a minimum, emphasis on minimum. Okay. Write a minimum of 1 paragraph about how it influences your life. Okay. You have this belief. Now, how do you live it out? Okay. How do you live it out? Okay. Give an example. All right. Give an example. So show your reader how it's true. And remember, this material in the highlighted section, this is what's going to become your essay. Okay. So again, like I was saying, spend some time thinking about it. Okay. Spend some time thinking about it. And then finally, okay, now we're up to 3 paragraphs minimum. And the reason I'm breaking this down by paragraph is I want us to employ, some of the strategies we just learned about. Okay. And then here's how we wrap it up. All right. Music. I love music, and anytime I can incorporate music into what we do, I'm all for it. All right. But as the final part of this assignment, choose a song related to your belief. Now, here is the thing. Your song does not necessarily have to be about your belief, meaning the words in the song don't have to be about your belief. The song could just have like a certain sentimental or a nostalgic value to you, meaning like this was the song that I listened to in summer 2007, when I had this experience. All right, so that's fine. Just make sure that it's a song that has some meaning to you, meaning don't just choose your favorite song of the moment. All right, unless it is one of those songs. Some things we hear where it's just like an instant classic, but just make sure it's a song that has some meaning to you, a song that conveys a mood or whatever. All right, but again, that's up to you. Your song doesn't even have to have words. Okay, you can use an instrumental piece. That's perfectly fine. All right. In the past, this one I always remember this. One of my students used this like the theme music from the game Mass Effect, which happens to be like one of my favorite, video game series. So this student, was just really touched, by this theme music. And I was like, wow, man, this is interesting. Okay. So what I'm saying is don't think that you have to choose like a specific genre. Okay. Maybe, your song is not in English. Perfectly fine. Okay. And again, like I was saying, maybe your song doesn't have words. Or maybe your song is a spoken word piece where the music, is really sparse, but the focus is what the person's saying, almost like the vocals become the instrument. So what I'm saying with all of this is don't feel beholden to a certain box you have to go in to choose your song. All right. And I do listen to all the songs, not because I'm checking up on you guys, but I just like, music. And if I could get turned on to some new music, I would give it a shot. All right. So the connection to your belief could be through words or a feeling that your chosen song conveys. Okay. Write a paragraph explaining why you chose your song and how it relates to your belief. Okay. Why you chose it, how it relates to your belief. And if you want, you can include you don't have to include excerpts for the song. The stuff is pretty easy to find online. And like I said, I usually just YouTube or use other completely legal means of finding music of finding music and movies. That's the real reason I didn't want to use this computer as opposed to my other one. Okay. All right. Now, so this assignment is a minimum of 4 paragraphs. And I'm not saying pages specifically because I want us to practice paragraphing for this assignment, right? So here's the goals. I try to put these on most of the things I do, but integrate reading and writing, meaning like we're looking at something, we're reading it, and then we're digesting it, and then we're writing about it. All right. Practice paragraphing strategy, summary response. It's going to be shorter than what we just did, but same principle. And then intro to the convention of college writing, absolutely. All right, learning some more rules, and then self-exploration, because for me, that's I don't know, man. Maybe I'm old school when I look at education, but for me, that's what education means. Right? Self-exploration or self-development. Of course, there's the practical reasons you want to get a job, right? You want some specialized training, but in essence, it's about self-development and self-improvement. All right. And this thing is due 1 week from today. Throw that in the assignment folder. Okay. And then we'll move on to the next thing. All right. And again, that assignment is in the paragraphing resources module, but I will make sure I link you all to it once I get this Zoom meeting converted and uploaded to YouTube and then put onto our D2L page. All right. So again, minimum of 4 paragraphs for this assignment. All right. Any questions about that? About the assignment? Okay.
So we can use Cardi B's new song.
Okay, listen. No,
What,
I mean,
WAP?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, if that song speaks to you on a certain level, yeah. I mean, hey man, maybe that's
It
connected to
is
your
what it
belief,
is.
right? Maybe that's connected to your belief. Okay, that's up to you. But I think when we apply our critical lens to things, there's something to be gained, from every song, from every piece of, from every text. And I use the word text loosely. All right, so yeah, if you want to use that, be my guest.
All right, that's my
certainly,
challenge.
say what?
That's my challenge for this week.
Okay. All right.
All right.
I look forward to it. Challenge accepted. All right, that's what I like to hear. All right, but again, whatever you like, man. Whatever you like. Okay. Yeah, I just like music. People ask me what kind of music I like. I just like, like if you look at my Spotify, sometimes I just go into my Spotify and hit shuffle, and yeah, like every genre is represented. All right, so yeah, music, man, music is life, or really just art in general is life. All right, so here's just a recap before I let you guys get out of here. One, all right, check out the material in this grammar corner. All right, especially if there's something specific, that you think you're struggling with. But I do want us all to pay specific attention to these avoiding second person point of view documents. All right, and I want us all to put that into our practice. When it comes to writing, avoiding second person point of view. Even if you do it in a rough draft, try to go back and clean it up. All right, so make sure you take a look at those, and then in our paragraphing resources module, there's the material from our textbook, but this kind of just reinforces it. So wait, is this my pie paragraph? Oh yeah, okay. Pie paragraphs, all right. So that's that. Okay, point, information, explanation. All right, but the main thing in our here's something about intros and conclusion. We'll talk about this next week when the essay is actually assigned. All right, but the main thing in this module is our assignment, right? This narrative essay reflection. And if you have questions about that, just let me know via email, and we could talk about it. What's today? Tuesday?
Yep.
Okay. I usually set time aside on Thursday. I know this is sort of an evening class, but I'm usually available in the mornings on Thursdays. So, and this is for this or any assignment. And last Thursday I did like a small group meeting with folks just from all of my sections. So if you ever want to just need like a quick explanation of something, and it can't be explained by email, just let me know. We could definitely set up a short 10 to 15 minute conference. All right, especially if there's multiple folks. I try to get you all in at the same time. All right, so if you're struggling, especially later on down the line when we get to our I guess more lengthy essays, that'll be useful. All right, so that's that, my good people. Okay, I'm about to stop recording. Okay, unless somebody wants to confess something.
Wait a minute. No. No. No.
All right. No.